Welcome into the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago after a White Sox walk-off winner, 4-3 in 10 innings. Andrew Benintendi, our man, coming through with the RBI single, driving in Miguel Vargas for the 38th win in the 2024 season for the White Sox, 38-120. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. Being produced today by our pal Sarah.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. White Sox Tom saying not tonight. Peyton Lowry saying no history tonight. Makes me so happy that all the Sox fans rooting for the Angels are going home feeling empty. We'll talk about that. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll be joined later in the show by Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. People are noticing, hey, Sean's in a suit because thought I was going to a funeral tonight, folks. You know what? I said, I got to be bold. I was going to the game tomorrow or yesterday, right? Yep. To say I was there. And now I'm like, well, you know, since they live to see another day, there's no way that they're going to win tonight. I thought the Cat had one life left.
Yep.
And I guess they still had like two. I guess this is the last life. There's no way they're winning tomorrow, right?
I mean, I'm going to the game tomorrow and then coming here like at the 7th inning or 6th inning. So I hope they certainly lose tomorrow so I can see and say that I was in attendance for history. But, yeah, what I've learned from this series in particular is that the White Sox, yes, are bad. Angels in that same neighborhood. Ooh. Angels are down the streets.
Ooh, they don't look good.
Those some bitches are hella bad. I feel bad for Ron Washington. Now, in his defense, he gets one of the best players in baseball back starting next year. For how long? I don't know.
Anthony Rendon?
No. For how long? I don't know how long because, you know, Mike Nelson Trout always gets hurt. But we have no Mike Nelson Trout. Not even our center fielder this year. He is hella terrible, Luis Robert, even though he had a decent day.
Yeah, well, it's funny to see Andrew Benintendi come through in the 10th and then in the post-game show saying, you know, the guy's got a sub-2 ERA, but he only pumps fastballs. If only Luis Robert Jr. had that scouting report, because, man, 93 down the middle, 2-2, and you got a runner on second base, and you're just swinging and missing. He said it's on him before today's game. He said that he knows he's the face of the team and that this is on him.
I wish
he's excited for Cancun, like you said. Where'd you have him going? Was it Cancun?
Yeah.
He's excited. Who wouldn't be? Cancun, baby.
Can wait.
Aruba, man. Jamaica. Ooh, I want to take you.
Bermuda, Bahamas.
Come on, pretty mama. Let's go.
Yeah. It's the only Beach Boys I know.
Tonight was pretty ugly. It was first led off by a Korey Lee 2-run homer, your guy.
Awesome.
And then Lenyn Sosa, who we'll talk about in a second. Lenyn living the dream Sosa, as John Schriffen labeled him tonight, went deep with a solo homer. But the 8th inning, friends. The 8th inning was something to watch. Justin Anderson, everyday Justin Anderson, really has been struggling to throw strikes, loads the bases, and they have the 9th hitter come up. That guy gets a strike on him, and then a suicide sacrifice bunt that's played perfectly. Anderson runs up to field it. Vaughn charges in. Who's covering second, Herb?
Oh, a lot of people are covering second. No one's covering first.
Sorry. Who's covering first?
Not a damn soul.
Not a damn soul. And that tied the game up, but thankfully Andrew Benintendi was able to drive in the game-winning run in the 10th inning. But, man, the Angels had a chance in the 9th, had a chance in the 10th. They're just a really bad baseball team. I mean, even Quijada, or whoever is the final pitcher that they threw out there, you're talking about, oh, he looks good because he's got a 198 ERA. But I remember you saying that, and the last time, like, he's a lefty who throws 93 max, and the last time we saw him, he was walking like 3 White Sox. And I think his ERA last year was like a 6. Mm-hmm. So, like, this team, the Angels, are very, very bad. The White Sox are showing you how bad they are by beating them. I think, that's 3 wins now against this team?
Yeah.
So, at worst, you split.
Exactly. And the White Sox have only won like 4 series versus teams this season series this year. So Angels might go down on that record book as the 5th team tomorrow if the White Sox can get a victory. But it was initially supposed to be Garrett Crochet pitching tomorrow. Chris Flexen on them hoes is going to be starting instead.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to Vinny about that. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. A lot of people talking about my suit in the comments, but we only got 6 likes. So what are we talking about? We got 60 people watching, about like 7 people talking about my suit, and no one's hitting the thumbs up button. So come on, give us a thumbs up button.
History!
Thank you, Sarah. What we want to talk about first,
Yeah.
and I didn't run this by you, so what I want to talk about first, and Herb's along for the ride, is the take of, and shout out to our guy Shane Reardon, who's saying, and even James Fox was saying, people who are going to the White Sox game to boo the White Sox and cheer on the Angels tying on that game is bizarre. We were at that game yesterday, 17,000 strong, 18,000 tonight. What do you think about White Sox fans that went to Guaranteed Rate Field over the past 2 nights to cheer on the Angels and to cheer on, Sarah, you ready for history?
History!
You are.
Awesome. No one, as I told James Fox in the comments, you think they're there for the 38th win of the year? Yeah? No. The White Sox have disappointed this year. Let people have an enjoyable time. When it's 10 years from now, they'll tell their kids, their grandkids, hey, you know that record where the White Sox lost 123 games? I was there. I was there that night.
I was there.
I have the ticket stub. No one is going to the White Sox games to cheer them on. If you think of them as worse fans, that's on you. That's your bag. Those people have been disappointed by this organization, and if they bought a ticket or sitting at home cheering for the Angels, that is their prerogative. It doesn't make them any lesser of a fan to me than anything. The White Sox don't deserve my cheering at all times. They don't. The 38th win of the year. It's the 157th game of the year. So bump all that. If you think of them as worse fans, then that's your bag. Those fans are there to see history. And if history is going to be happening in front of them, there's no reason to be like tomorrow. I'm not going to be in the Guaranteed Rate Club. Yes, I'm shouting out.
Heyo.
Sitting there cheering for the White Sox to win 39 games. Why? What is that going to do for anybody? They don't get a better draft pick. There's nothing that's going to come out of it. The only thing that's going to come out of it is worse things, like Grady Sizemore being the manager next year. Oh, man, you see Grady swept those Angels at the last series, and we were competitive all those series back at the end of the year. Let's bring that sumbitch back type of stuff. No, this team is cashed. And if those people bought a ticket and want to see some history and you think less of them, that's your bag, not their bag. I am all for that. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I mean, 17,000, 18,000, I mean, that is kind of rivaling what a weekend crowd would look like.
That's more than they get on an average crowd.
I think the 3 times that they have gotten like 30,000 plus during the weekday this year, Ohtani plus a giveaway for Mexican Independence Day. What was that? It was just Mexican Heritage Night. That was a very big night for them, and then the 2 Cubs games,
yeah.
which makes sense. There's been some 26,000s. There's obviously opening day did well, but for the most part, you are not seeing people on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday going to the White Sox game on purpose. Like it's just, oh, hey, I had games, or someone from work had access to a game. I'm not going to say someone shouldn't fan how they want to.
Yeah.
The fact that people are showing up is good. I understand not booing Nicky Lopez and Brian Ramos, because what have they done for this organization, right? They haven't even been here. They don't deserve that. But it's more just exalting this energy because people were looking forward to, especially these years, a winning baseball team.
Correct.
And you are just getting a pile of dog something from this team consistently. And it's frustrating. And
Yeah.
I don't mind people showing up, being White Sox fans, and even though they're rooting against the other team, like, are you just taking this context, like, without context?
Yeah.
People are frustrated, and people are mad. People are showing up in whatever they find creative to show off, hey, look how much of a fan I am and how much I still care about this team, even though we are in the basement. I'm was very excited and glad to see people showing up on Monday to the extent they did, still showing up on Tuesday, and them dropping a fly ball in the 5th inning and getting booed and getting laughed at and having sell the team chants break out, that's deserved.
Yes.
You can't properly field like a Major League Baseball team. It happens again in the 8th inning tonight, and you escape with 2 victories. Like, that is just luck that has been just kind of absent this entire season. You have 3 walk-off wins, all from the same guy. This is their first comeback win last night in 95 tries after trailing in the 7th inning. Like, this is a horrible, horrible team. People do not want to go out and watch this horrible, horrible team, and that's what they've shown you throughout this season. People are going out and watching this team, and even though it is a negative support, it's still support. They're not just letting this be an empty ballpark. I'm not sure if this is going to be asked, and you can ask it if you remember, because I have a horrible memory, but I hope Vinny and the beat writers are asking these players, like, hey, would you rather this be an empty place or have people that are showing up and at least creating noise? Some of the loudest games. Jerry doesn't like that one. Yeah, the players, I don't think, have too much of a thought on that one. Jerry definitely doesn't like that one. But, I do not care if you're a Sox fan and you are rooting for them to lose 121. I don't.
Me either. And they should root against you because you've played that way. So I don't. If you at home or watching this, listening to this, don't want to do that, don't want to participate in that, that's your prerogative. You can do that. And when you go to the game, cheer for the White Sox. That's your prerogative. But to have some type of slight towards somebody else, as Jack says right here, some dude was telling him that he's a loser because he had a bag on it over his head yesterday, that's none of your business, dude. If Jack wants to go to the game and show his displeasure for this historically bad franchise, historically bad team, with every single day a new article to showing you how bad this team and organization is, Jack, me, Sean, anybody who's at the ballpark today, allow them to do that. As Sean says, let people fan how they want to fan. And you're not a better fan because you cheer for your White Sox. And they're not worse fans because they cheer against them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just looking at these numbers, too, for at least days during the weekday that drew well, the Yankees had 20,000 plus, 21,000 and 22,000. We were Tuesday and Wednesday were those games. You also have a Tuesday game against the Dodgers that drew well. You also have that's it. And then, you have opening day. You have opening day in that Dodgers game, and then the Cubs games. So there's these 2 games that went over 17,000, the 2 Yankees games, and then the opening day 2 Cubs games. So this is the 5th game that's going over 17,000 during a Monday through Thursday. That's a great show out for the 2024 White Sox. And I just am reminded that White Sox fans are passionate. There are a ton of us out there, and the BS line that is sold to the government, literally, that they need to have a state-funded stadium is a complete lie. People aren't showing up to Guaranteed Rate Field because of the shooting incident or because of parking or because of Bridgeview or because of the stadium. It's because of the team. Because of Jerry Reinsdorf. We'll talk about that in a second. There was an ESPN article that was released by Jesse Rogers and Buster Olney that we'll get into. A lot of Jerry stuff. We got some Lenyn living the dream Sosa talk, and then Vinnie Duber will be joining us from Guaranteed Rate Field. We have to take a break and let you know about our friends over at Z-Biotics. We have to tell you about this game-changing product that we use before a night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. After a night out with drinks, people who are Herb's age don't bounce back like they used to. They have to make a choice. They can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until they have found pre-alcohol. It has changed Herb Lawrence's life.
Damn right.
If there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it's with pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. I moved myself away from the read. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol prebiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists trying to tackle rough morning after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut, and it's in this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Prebiotic induces an enzyme to break this byproduct down, and you just have to remember to drink Z-Biotics, your first drink of the night, to drink responsibly and then enjoy your best tomorrow. If you want to try out pre-alcohol for yourself, go check it out. With their GMO technology, they will release different products that will help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. You can go to zbiotics.com/CHGOSOX to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code CHGOSOX at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Thank you to ZBiotics.
Now, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, Prize Picks, it is just you and the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Folks, this is the last week you can do this. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard. Get you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's, so don't miss out on this deal for Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, and right here in the great state of Illinois. My go-to Prize Picks was Caitlin Clark, points, rebounds, and assists. But Caitlin Clark got ousted by the Connecticut Sun tonight. So I have to shift that to Marina Mayberry. Or what's that her say?
I miss Mayberry sitting on the porch drinking ice cold cherry Coke. Everything is black and white. No. That song?
The former Chicago Sky who got traded out to the Sun.
Oh.
Because she's been balling herself, hit a big-time shot at the end of that game. So I'll be going with her and that Caleb Williams 1 yard in September. Download the app today and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thank you, Herb Lawrence. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel as well. Edward is ditching the CHGO White Sox post-game show, but it's okay because he's just watching different CHGO content. He's watching the CHGO Blackhawks post-game show. So we're getting beat out by Hawks preseason content.
I just roll my eyes at Edward. As always, this is not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure.
I mean, he's just Edward has been here for 2.5
I got
years.
It. You don't have to announce
your CHGO guy. He's going to a CHGO product.
Just go.
We don't need to lambast the people that are watching our products.
I'm not lambasting. I'm just saying he's already gone. Oh, bye.
All right,
go.
John Greenberg.
They don't need to know you're going. Bye.
Mr. Chuggo himself, who we saw get a campfire milkshake. I almost had Emma stalk outside of the Vizzy View Club and just harass all the media members getting a campfire milkshake. She didn't want to for some weird reason, but hey. John Greenberg of The Athletic tweeting, if you had 100 tries, you wouldn't guess the song blasting in the Sox clubhouse when we walked in. So get your guesses in the comments now. I did see an answer that I liked that I would throw out as my guess. Do you have an answer for the song that would be playing? Sarah, do you have a guess for the song that was playing? The guess that I liked, and John Greenberg says, it's a fitting song, just funny. I like the guess of All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. That would be funny.
I would say, we're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it. Twisted Sister.
So I actually don't have a response to this. Emma just slacked us in our White Sox Beat channel, and she said, maybe I should have been going to the games all year long if they can't lose while I'm there.
There you go.
That's also a thought. She's been there for 2 nights now.
Emma's undefeated. She's 2-0. She is their good luck charm.
And she'll be there tomorrow, too. So
3-0. Here you go. Bet your mortgage. I would probably say that's good advice. Bet your mortgage, your house payment. If your kids go to school, they probably don't need to, take all their school payments and just, bet it on the White Sox money line. Maybe also I Will Survive.
Okay.
That's fitting. Yep. I doubt they're playing Gloria Gaynor.
Yeah, they don't know who that is.
They could be. I mean, Chris Flexen might know Gloria Gaynor.
He doesn't know who she is.
Grady might know Gloria Gaynor.
Maybe. He's like 41.
Maybe Jason Bourgeois busting out the Gloria Gaynor. Someone throwing out Mr. Brightside, our guy Mailman Jack, LA throwing out Party in the USA. Throw out more guesses, and we'll ask Vinny once he joins us. All right. Time to talk about Lenyn living the dream Sosa. Steve Stone had an interesting comment after his double in, I believe, the second inning, that Lenyn has really kind of cemented himself for the 2025 roster. And I was a little taken back by that comment. He did end up going 0 for 2 after his first 2 hits of being a double and a homer tonight. These stats I'm about to read off are incorrect. It should be 115 at-bats. It is 113, so be a little gracious with me. His numbers aren't this good, but they're still interesting enough. His last 30 games started 115 at-bats, 36 hits, 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, 2 walks, and I believe now 25 Ks. I had 23 written down. I think he struck out in his last 2 at-bats.
He did.
318 average, and then a 434 slugging. That should be a little bit lower after the 2 at-bats that I didn't count in, but still a 310-ish average, and then about a 414 or so slugging percentage or so. So that's in his last 30 games. Pre-August 18th, 191 at-bats, 44 hits, 7 doubles, 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, 0 walks, 30 Ks, 230 batting average, 330 slugging percentage. I have a couple more deeper notes about his actual profile as a hitter, but have you noticed this hot streak, if you can even call that, from Lenyn Sosa? Because I was pretty surprised looking at these numbers, saying like, oh, Lenyn Sosa hitting over 300, baby, let's go.
The average is good, but I mean, the slugging, I thought it would be better because that's part of the reason why he's in the major leagues, because his bat in the AAA was so good. He was home run power all the time, but good for him. Good that he's not packing it in, trying to find himself a job next year, and this hot start could get him out there, as Steve was talking about. So I'm not going to poo-poo him for doing well. As I just talked about, Luis Robert maybe looking for a quick trip out to Cancun. Hey, Lenyn Sosa's like, I'm taking every at-bat like it's serious, like this is my last chance in the major leagues, only though he's 24, 25 years old. And he's improved himself from these last 30 games and taking the starts not for granted, and every at-bat he's going out there and battling.
We are about to be joined by Vinnie Duber, but real quick, let me read off some stats that he probably will roll his eyes at just because they're advanced metrics. Nothing has really changed whiff percentage-wise. 19% in his last 30 games, 19.8% in the 191 at-bats before that. The exit velocity is a little up, about 2 miles per hour. His launch angle is about 2 degrees up, from 12 to 14 degrees. The exit velocity was from 88.7 to 90.7. The average distance, though, only gains about 3 feet, even with that 2 mile per hour gain and that 2-degree difference. His batter run value out of 100 at-bats, negative 1.4. It was pre-818, negative 3.2, so he's still technically a negative hitter. Only 2 walks on the year so far. His expected weighted on base average, 326 in the last 30 games. It was 324 pre-818, so it's about the same there. And his bat speed and swing length are fairly the same, 7.81 miles per hour to 71.6, and then 7.4 feet to 7.3. So no real difference in his swing there. So, I mean, maybe it's just hitting the mistakes. Seen a lot of the Angels, seen a lot of the Athletics as well. Maybe it's the quad A pitching that he's really feasting on. But let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field to our CHGO White Sox beat writer, who weirdly isn't wearing a suit. I don't know why you guys aren't wearing a suit, but whatever.
I missed the memo.
Vinny, we've been talking about Lenyn living the dream Sosa. Anything that you can add on to Lenyn's last 30 games or so where he's hitting above 300?
Not really. I'll tell you this. I am excited to attend your ska band's concert tonight after the show. But I think when it comes to Sosa, listen, he's been taking advantage of an opportunity, right? I mean, we heard when Yoan Moncada came up that they were going to focus on playing guys like Vargas and Ramos over at third base. Lenyn Sosa's getting that treatment at second base, and listen, all it takes is an opportunity, and he's gotten a more sizable one this year than he ever has before in his pro career in terms of big league opportunity. About time he took advantage of it, and the circumstances of this team allowed him to have this opportunity again. When over the last few years, his very small production at the big league level might have snuffed out that opportunity. But here are the White Sox rebuilding again. He's still around, and why not make the most of the time that you're given?
You know what they need to do right now is to never tell Davis Martin it's going to be his last start of the year, because in 2022 got killed, absolutely murdered his last start. ERA went up. Today he didn't get killed, only 2 earned runs, but walked the yard and only got into 3 2/3 today. What did Davis say went wrong today, and what was his reaction to the White Sox coming back and grabbing him a W, or grabbing the team a W, actually?
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty matter-of-fact guy, so I don't think it was reaction like you might see from some other pitchers where it's like, oh, we got to figure this out. We got to go in the lab and figure it out. He's kind of just like, yeah, didn't work tonight, and I know why, and we'll figure it out next time. And, he's very complimentary, obviously, of the work that the bullpen did in, quote unquote, picking him up. Obviously, there was a lead late that was relinquished by the bullpen, but the idea that it was a parade of relievers in there again, pretty much. And for the most part, they held this not terribly imposing Angels team at bay, and did the job that Davis really couldn't early on. So, walks and stuff, bad, not good. But I think when you look at Davis Martin's full season here, I think he made 10 appearances, including that one relief one earlier this year. In his return from Tommy John surgery, he looked like a pretty consistent and reliable big league pitcher. And he's a guy that I think you can definitely, maybe not just pencil in, but pen in, Sharpie in for the opening day rotation in 2025. And he's someone that you wouldn't, if you're a White Sox fan, if you're the White Sox, you wouldn't be upset to do that either, because he has been, for the most part, pretty effective.
Yeah, no, he's been great. That changeup had Herb oohing and ahhing at points. John Greenberg, your media colleague, tweeted out 100 tries. You wouldn't guess the song blasting in the Sox clubhouse when we walked in. Mailman Jack has literally submitted 100 guesses in the comments, so maybe he's gotten it right. But do you have the reveal of the song that was playing when you walked into the White Sox clubhouse?
Well, Mailman Jack, I know from talking to him, has the same music tastes that I do, so I can tell him that he will not guess this and he will be disappointed. It was Everybody, or what's the Gonna Make You Sweat by CNC Music Factory. There you go.
Oh, okay.
No, I wouldn't have
I mean,
guessed
Gonna
that at
Make
all.
You Sweat, that's fitting. We've been sweating over the past couple of games. I mean, big Marky, no, that's not Marky Mark.
That's CNC Music Factory. It's terrible. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They ripped off some lady, right? That's the
Martha
whole
Wash.
bit? Yeah.
She was the singer of that song, but they put a
Different
more
lady.
physically appealing person in there, apparently.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Also, just to add on to the Lenyn stuff, I forgot to mention this. I think it's a fun burst from him over the last 30 games, but likely it's good luck. Also, defensively, -5 outs above average, 0.6 UZR, that's ultimate zone rating, 0 fielding run value, and 0 defensive run saves. Likely just going to be a part of the team anyways in 2025 because of the dearth of talent, but hey, that's a different conversation. The only other thing I think I have on this game, and then I want to get into what Grady had to say on Crochet, Arizona Fall League rosters, Chris Getz's love of Rock Soroka, and then obviously the Jesse Rogers and Buster Only article from today. But at least from this game, did Grady mention anything about the 9th inning? You have Korey Lee on first base, and then Dominic Fletcher at bat. Fletcher hits a pop-up to second base. The Angels don't drop the ball, but if they do, Fletcher was kind of holding the bat and not running to first. Lee retreats back to first, but they could have dropped that ball, stepped on second, and then possibly thrown out Fletcher at first. Steve Stone commended the hustle, and we've heard about Chris Getz talking about the way the players have played under Grady, but not only the Dominic Fletcher thing in the 9th, but you also have the drop pop fly in the 5th yesterday, and then the mistake in the 8th where no one's covering first on the suicide squeeze. Did Grady talk about any of the blunders in today's game, and anything that you think is valuable to the conversation?
He didn't. Obviously, when you've got your post game, obviously the story is what it was tonight. They won again and they avoided 121 for another night, but certainly Chris Getz was asked about that yesterday, the idea that these mistakes still exist. And I think it's just something where they think they need to keep coaching guys up and keep coaching, and keep moving in a direction where this is not going to happen anymore. I think this year you could probably explain it away a little bit more on the quality of the roster, the caliber of the roster, right? As opposed to years past when it was guys who were supposed to be pillars of this organization making those types of mistakes. But certainly it has been a defining feature of this team just as much as it has been in years past, and which is especially notable because the whole preseason conversation was about becoming more fundamentally sound and getting rid of some of those mistakes. I think specifically tonight, if I were to venture a guess, that looked like maybe a a bad hit and run or something like that? Because Korey Lee took off on that ball, which was not hit very far, nor was it hit very high. So I don't think by watching that ball leave the bat, you would assume, okay, I got to get a good deal of the way down the baseline there, or down towards second base. So that's just a guess. But overall, in terms of this, it's obviously going to be a focus for this organization as they move forward, not just into this offseason, but as they try to figure things out for the long haul. They got to stop making plays like that on such a regular basis.
God, I'd love to see that. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll get into ESPN's article and then some other White Sox news, like Garrett Crochet pitching against the Tigers, and then the Arizona Fall League roster. Let's take a break. Let's let you know about our friends over at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They are here to elevate your summer and fall. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, and they have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit, so you can stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff or select from quality lines like Cresco or Floracal. I do love the Simply Herb line, and hey, you know, it's a bargain when you get 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions do apply, but check out sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, and again, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray Chevrolet. If you are looking for a bigger car, head over to Ray Chevrolet this September because Truck and SUV Month is going on now. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models at their new low prices. Right now, you could take up to $3,000 to $12,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or you can cruise into fall your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. So visit our partner in September at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever, which means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking to you about now, you can expect to see the very same when you're shopping Ray Chevrolet in-store or online. So shop Truck and SUV Month all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Vinnie Duber, let's ask you about Garrett Crochet and why he's pitching on Friday against the Tigers. What did manager Grady Sizemore, interim manager, not the real manager yet, Herb, but it's coming, interim manager Grady Sizemore, say about that decision?
Yeah, I think they saw a chance to play spoiler. They're going to play a Tigers team that is fighting for a playoff spot right in the thick of that wild card race, which is still going on, even though the Twins were on a pretty bad slide. They did win tonight, at least. So that there's going to be a playoff spot up for grabs this weekend. And the way Grady explained it was, the White Sox want to throw their best guy and make for the best baseball game they can, make for the best competition that they can. He called the Tigers, quote, our rivals. So he wants to make sure that they maybe can not just play a good baseball game and give the Tigers a challenge as they try to get into the playoffs, but maybe even win that game or multiple of them and try to keep the Tigers from reaching October baseball.
With that in mind, did he say the limits on Garrett Crochet are lifted because he's trying to give the team the best chance to win?
He laughed at that question because it seems like if he could, he would lift those limits, being the competitor that he is. He joked and said, you'll have to talk to Chris Getz about that one. But he continued on to joke and say in jest that if it were up to him, he'd take it off and let him throw 120. But no, at the end of the day, they're going to probably keep him at the 3-4 inning limit that he's been at, with the idea that it's been this whole time, which is the whole second half, basically, which has been to try to preserve the health of a guy who has never done this before this year. Garrett Crochet is going to make a full season worth of starts in his first season as a pro starting pitcher, and that's going to be a big deal.
Kind of like it, too, because you're giving Garrett Crochet 2 playoff teams in his last 2 starts. First was the Padres, now you're going with the Tigers. competitive baseball. And I'm sure the juices are going to be flowing for Garrett Crochet on Friday, as opposed to him pitching tomorrow versus the Angels team that we've seen is piss poor.
Yeah, I know, but you can get a win against the Angels and throwing out your best pitcher. I mean, it's a bold strategy to be like, they said that I don't care about the record, but hey, we're going to throw out the worst pitcher against a team that's fairly beatable. But we'll see what happens.
Pitching better.
Huh?
He's been pitching better.
Chris Flexen?
Yeah.
All right, Vinnie Duber, I want to ask you about the Arizona Fall League roster and what White Sox players were included. I don't know if Paul Janisch had anything specific to say, but the biggest name obviously being Colson Montgomery. Any insight onto why they are sending Colson back down to the Fall League?
I think it's just to have him play more. He finished the season a lot better at AAA than he had been playing in it previously. Obviously, that is relative, of course, and he had a pretty bad season, I think, by any measure. But they're very happy with how he's kind of taking care of his body and how he's been responded physically to a very dramatically increased workload this year, right? If you think about his first few seasons in pro ball, he didn't play full seasons because he was dealing with injury issues. This was 130 games at AAA for him, and it's going to continue. So I think they like the way, certainly, that he finished the season more than he played throughout the rest of it. Maybe found that he clicked a little bit, maybe on the mental side of things, and to go ahead and give him an opportunity to play more games and to keep kind of working through the failures that he had this year is kind of what they're thinking about. Paul Janisch, the farm director who we talked to earlier today, said that it's not an easy thing for a guy to go to the Fall League again. It almost kind of seems like you're being asked to, or this is my take, it almost seems like you're being asked to repeat a grade level down at school, right? But apparently Colson has kind of approached it well and taken the assignment well, and he's going to do it. And they want to see him continue the little signs of improvement that he showed toward the end of the regular season, now playing more, another month's worth of games down there in Arizona.
I mean, I might disagree because that might be a little too much baseball. He's played a lot of baseball, played Fall League last year and all this season. So, that's not my call to make. But you guys got to speak to Luis Robert Jr. through his translator, Billy Russo. What do you have to say about this lost season and his responsibility in it?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from what Luis had to say was kind of the way it's affected him a little bit mentally, maybe not so much in that the season being the reason for his poor play and his poor offensive results, but the idea that when a season like this happens and you are the guy on the team and you think of yourself as the guy or one of the guys on the team, you can't help but think that it's kind of your fault. And I think he did shoulder some of that blame. Obviously, this is a team sport. I think if you're thinking that everything is your fault in a season where your team loses 120 games, that's obviously just very silly. But he did express that it's on him, as well as some of the other, what he referred to as kind of faces of this team, that they've performed the way they have, at least in some part. And he flat out said, part of the reason that the season has been so bad is because I haven't done on the field what I'm capable of doing. And it's hard to argue with that. Certainly in the second half of the season, his offense has been, atrocious, for really pretty objectively atrocious. So obviously he talked a little bit about why. I think it's that continued explanation from him that he's just way too focused on the strike zone and kind of in his head a little bit in that regard. But the big takeaway, I think, was him kind of acting in a way almost like, we remember Jose Abreu acting, and kind of, even if he's not going to be the rah-rah, follow me leader type, when it comes to answering questions like that, he's going to say, yeah, this is my fault and I feel bad about it, as much as, you can assume for a team sport where one guy is obviously not responsible for 120 losses.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. I don't know how to fully explain my thoughts on Robert, because it's all right to see accountability. They are just words, and it's tough where Benny comes up after him in the 10th inning, and Benny's telling John and Steve post-game, hey, this guy only throws fastballs, and you got Luis Robert Jr., of all people, swinging and missing at 93-mile-per-hour fastballs from a left-handed pitcher. It doesn't even seem like he's – it does seem like he's in his head, but I understand why some people are saying, he just doesn't care, because there is just some point where it's like you have a guy that's gets you down 2-0. And he throws you a fastball that's pretty hittable, and you're blowing by it.
Yeah.
What else is the guy going to throw? And he just throws you 4 more fastballs after that. I mean, it's tough, and obviously it's been tough for the player. I obviously can't imagine what it's like in his head. All right, just to fully wrap up too for the fall league, Sox are sending Colson Montgomery along with Grant Taylor, Peyton Paulette, Eric Adler, Andrew Dahlquist. Hello, old friend. Tim Elko, your guy, DJ Gladney, Anthony Hoopy Tuanatua, our guy Bubba, and Michael Turner. Surprised not to see Rico Nishida on that squad, because I know that he was called up to Double-A, and that was one thing. Like, you have to be at least at Double-A to be at the fall league. So at least no Niku.
Sad.
Yeah, sad for you.
He gets to relax and chill out. I get to call him in the offseason and see how he's doing. Waiting for next year on the Major League team.
We don't get to relax now. In the last 20 minutes, I think we're probably saving the most stressful stuff for last. Vinny, everyone just keeps taking shots at the Chicago White Sox, hit piece after hit piece, with them approaching this loss record. We do have over 70 people watching us, 31 likes. Hit that thumbs up button as we jump into the article that was recently put out by ESPN, Jesse Rogers and Buster Olney on the byline of ESPN there. Let's start first. They go chronologically with this article, and I think the thing that stuck out to me was something we talked about yesterday. Jesse and Buster refer to the Cease trade as a white flag trade. Do you think that this is maybe, like the two bookends of I don't like our team, and Chris saying that, and with maybe the thoughts of, not using the word rebuild, to at some point between him saying that and then the deal of Cease, Jerry and him had a conversation of, hey, seems like we can get some good value, and I think this season might go south of, where Jerry kind of maybe changed his viewpoint of we're not going to be rebuilding in August?
I don't know if I can go quite as deep into that. I know what I wrote at the time, which was, boy, that trade really signaled that they're obviously in a rebuild. When you trade your best player for prospects, and to be fair, 2 of those guys made the major leagues this year. But when you trade your best player for that kind of return, you're signaling that you're planning for the future, for the long-term future, especially when, as we talked about all offseason, Cease had some control on him. He wasn't just he wasn't just a guy that they were about to get rid of, or that was about to walk out the door, rather. So, in terms of the big picture, I said it yesterday. I don't think Chris gets discovered along the way that this team needed to be rebuilt, right? He was the assistant general manager. I would have to imagine that if he reached the conclusion that they needed a rebuild, he would have reached it well earlier than March, or even December, when there were rumors that Cease was going to get traded. I don't think that a rebuild was something that Chris Getz had to spend months working toward. I think he knew that was going to be the case, because as has been very clear and very obvious, this team was not built to win. It was built to handle this type of thing well, certainly much better than the team did last year. But when you have your general manager saying that before the season started, he wouldn't have been surprised if they lost 105, 110 games, he's the one who put the roster together. At least in part, right? At least in all the guys that he went out and got. So he did not think that, or let's put it this way, he would not have been surprised had this team done exactly what they did. And now this is just to a little bit more of a degree, because it is a ridiculous amount of losses.
Through your reporting and others' reporting, we've known that the White Sox clubhouse has been in disarray for the last couple of years, and this year's clubhouse is much better than it was. There was some color added today, specifics to what the clubhouse was doing, with names named, and we kind of knew that the clubhouse was in a bad spot, but I don't know if everybody knew to the extent. And of course, these are just reports from Jesse and from Buster Olney, so take it as it is. But to hear the stuff that was levied in that article about Liam Hendriks, him battling back, and then players having to be coaxed to go to his return press conference, puts a real bad taste in my mouth for some of those players that were named in that article. And I already did not like, well, this is separate, but Yasmani Grandal and his, interaction with Tim Anderson. But it's worse than even reported, as according to Jesse and Buster. I know you've been in that clubhouse. So what were your thoughts on when that came out today? I'm sure you probably already knew these things.
Well, I think you used a good word there in talking about color, right? I mean, we knew last summer that this team had issues that needed to be addressed immediately, because that's what Rick Hahn said at the trade deadline, is that some of the moves that they made were done to address clubhouse issues. And who was traded at the trade deadline? Lance Lynn, Kendall Graveman, Joe Kelly, who were all named today in that report as being part of that dysfunction, we'll put it that way. And so, yeah, that was pretty apparent, because the guy who traded them last year said that they needed to make some of those moves to address the clubhouse. And you read in that report that the challenges that Pedro Grifol had to face as a first-year manager stepping in to that type of situation, and maybe those moves needed to be made, or those issues needed to be addressed immediately by Rick and Kenny last summer, for the benefit of what Pedro was trying to do. I mean, if you keep that environment like it was, Pedro's got no chance, and he might have already had no chance, right? So, I mean, the idea that that you were saddling him with even more challenges was obviously something that needed to be fixed, especially by the time they found out that they weren't going to be winning any games. So, it was a group of players who clearly, while they had some really good success on the stat sheet, maybe didn't fit together as puzzle pieces very well at all. And, you saw obviously the reporting we talked about at this time a year ago from Jesse and ESPN about what Keenan Middleton had to say. That was again referenced in today's piece. So the trade deadline moves last year did a lot to address that, but there were a lot of moves in the offseason, or contracts that expired in the offseason, that did that. And you see why Chris Getz put together the roster that he did this year, maybe not because he was trying to win an AL Central title. I'm sure he hoped that things would turn out that way, but he was maybe not trying to do that. He was trying to create a puzzle that fit together in a way that, should the results that were expected come along, that last year didn't happen again in terms of that clubhouse culture. And on that front, he was very successful. And I don't think people really care about that, because the big giant number of 120, and soon to be 121 perhaps, is going to be the thing that everybody remembers. But this team was built in a very specific way, and in one very specific way, it was built well.
And as I said before, I don't need these guys to be kumbaya. Don't need to be fans or friends of each other. But some of that reporting today, distasteful. Not the reporting, just the actions of some were distasteful, because that man dealt with a life and death situation. He came back from that life and death situation. Even if you don't jive with that man, at least have the respect to say, hey, man, I'm glad you're here, and I'm here for you, because we're humans, firstly, and secondly, we're teammates. We should be pulling on the same rope.
And I find it laughable that three guys in Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, and Kendall Graveman are depicted as being rude, maybe standoffish. I don't want to use bullying, because I don't know the exact insight of what happened between Liam and these three players. But Liam has always been a front-facing, extroverted player that consistently is nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award. This is a man that shows and uses his platform as a baseball star for good. Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, and Kendall Graveman have never been nominated for that award. So I think it at least shows the character of three of those people compared to the character of one person. And the fact that that's the person that's dividing the pitching staff in a way, it's pretty despicable from Lynn, Graveman, and Kelly. So the fact that that's at least brought to light is good, because Liam didn't deserve any of that in Chicago, and hopefully he's not dealing with that in Boston. I think Middleton's comments also were interesting. I know people mostly latched on at the time to the fact that he said, someone was sleeping in the dugout and that there wasn't enough, action there. But the biggest thing I took away was leadership, and the quote about that, at least from the White Sox. I thought I screenshotted it. But Keenan was very strong on the lack of leadership with the White Sox. I think what you're saying there is maybe there's a little bit more leadership in this clubhouse, even though there is the 120 loss. I don't know if it's. Are you seeing extroverted leadership, or is it more guys doing their job on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's both. I think leadership comes in a lot of different forms. I think a lot of people want to have someone get the C slapped on their chest and then give a rousing speech like in a movie kind of thing. I'm not sure it always plays out that way. I think you can be very much a leader by saying, hey, this sucks what we're going through. We're losing all the time, but I'm going to show up to work every day with a smile on my face. And that maybe tells the guy next to you that it's okay for him to do that too. Right? And that maybe inspires the guy 2 lockers down that he should do that also. Because I just got to the big leagues and that veteran over there is handling things this way. Okay, that's how I'm going to handle it, kind of thing. But I think there are a lot of people in this clubhouse who are, I don't even know if I want to use the word extroverted or a rah-rah kind of guy, but they're just, outgoing and friendly. And I think the thing that we keep hearing about this clubhouse is that these guys like each other. Davis Martin spent a lot of his post-game media session today comparing it to showing up every day, getting to see your friends at school, right? That these are your friends, and he likes going to work. And even though the results have been bad, he gets to be around people that he likes every day. And I think that that's a big deal. I've seen people take on roles if you want to call it leadership, you can call it leadership, but just talking and being a presence that draws people to you, whether that's Garrett Crochet, whether that's Gavin Sheets or Nicky Lopez. These are guys who I think bring positivity in a season where everybody could have been swallowed by the negativity. And listen, I know that this is everybody watching is a fan. They want their team to win. We talk all the time about how they're going to win, but it's also their job. And I think everybody watching, you want to show up to work every day in a positive environment. And these guys have made that the case, even though from the outside, it's being looked at as if it's so negative. And I think what you've noticed from these national reporting that you've seen over the last couple of weeks here as they've neared this record number is people coming in and saying, oh, I thought this was going to be complete misery. I thought I was going to walk into this clubhouse and it was going to be horrible and sad, and everybody was going to be, like they're attending a funeral. And what they've seen instead is people getting to hang out with their friends while they work towards something.
Davis Martin is reminded of a school because they play like a high school team. Boo Merced.
Wow. Weirdly enough, after reading that article, and I know that the situation was the same, and I knew of the situation when he did get hired, but I've come out of that article feeling very, very sad for Pedro Grifol because he was introduced into some nonsense that really, as a first-year manager, he could do really nothing about. These are veterans bickering amongst themselves. There's nothing a first-year manager just getting the job, taking it over from a legend like Tony La Russa could do. So what was your takeaway? I mean, you were there. You've been reporting these things. What's your feelings on Pedro Grifol after all this has been done, after he got fired? Like, do you have a different viewpoint than a person that just saw him lose games on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if it's wildly more nuanced than some of the things that we've been talking about for 2 years now. Herb, we say all the time, what difference does a manager make necessarily in the win-loss, right? We kind of always talk about that because they're not the ones swinging the bat, they're not the ones throwing the pitches, kind of thing. In that regard, that stinks for Pedro Grifol that he had to sit through that. But I think the idea is that's part of the job. While obviously that environment seemed like one that was abnormal and dysfunctional, it is part of the job description to manage the players, to manage personalities, and to try to get the most out of everybody, both on and off the field. And so while that was an immense challenge for somebody who had never done that job before, it is part of the job description. They maybe put him in a bad spot, but at some point he was going to have to run into the idea of, okay, I got to figure out how I'm going to make this guy work with this guy, how we're going to keep the boat from rocking too much in the clubhouse, so to speak. In addition to, we got to go out and play baseball and clean baseball and winning baseball kind of thing. I think at the end of the day, there was a lot included in that story that pointed to why he's no longer here, right? I mean, you heard a clubhouse this year kind of really negatively react to the whole effing flat moment, right? And so that is him being dealt a better hand, so to speak, in terms of all those veterans kind of being removed, but still maybe not being able to put the puzzle pieces together himself. So I think, as they always say about, I think it's always about quarterbacks in football. When it's going bad, it's never as much of his fault as people think it is, and when it's going good, it's never as much as his doing as people think it is, kind of thing. I think the same thing applies to Pedro in this situation, which is, obviously he wasn't the one reason that things fell apart. He wasn't the biggest problem with this team, but at the end of the day, he wanted to be a major league manager, and while this was maybe not an ideal situation by any stretch, that is part of the gig, and he even admitted, right, before the season started, that in season one, his first year, he took an approach that was wrong. And so, I mean, I definitely feel for the guy in that he had to deal with the environment that he was placed into. But at the same time, there were probably things that he could have done, and probably things that he knows and would tell you he could have done better to make things work a little smoother.
Vinny, I've been trying to avoid this name. I think I've even banned this name like Voldemort, but this article talks a lot about Tony La Russa. One staffer is quoted by saying that Jerry is too trusting of Tony La Russa, even to the point that Tony La Russa was hired before A.J. Hinch got a formal interview. There's also a quote saying, to this day, Jerry has no regrets with Tony, and I think of the Kenny quote of, I still can't even talk about that time. What I find interesting is Bob Nightingale reports, I believe on July 30th, because that would be the Sunday notebook, that there was a meeting on Wednesday with Pedro Grifol, Jerry Reinsdorf, and Chris Getz. This is something that we knew. But Jesse and Buster report that meeting on July 31st took place between Reinsdorf, Getz, Grifol, and La Russa. How involved is Tony La Russa? Because I understand it's the word consultant, but I cannot believe that Tony La Russa is not being consulted at least on a weekly basis, or asked on a weekly basis, by Jerry Reinsdorf. What do you make of this team? There's even a quote in here that La Russa backed Getz's promotion to GM as well. So I'm having a real tough time believing that this is a guy that's a consultant and just, on the payroll for insurance, because I know he's had health reasons, issues. I feel like Tony La Russa is fairly involved in the White Sox day to day. Am I wrong with that assumption? Because why is he in that meeting?
Well, I think the answer, everything kind of boils down to this. Tony La Russa is one of Jerry Reinsdorf's best friends. If you owned a baseball team and one of your best friends was a 3-time winning World Series manager and a Hall of Fame inductee, and you were going to be talking to him anyway because he's one of your best friends, you'd probably talk to him a lot about what's going on with your baseball team. Now, I think these are two very different questions, because, Sean, I know the place that you're coming from is probably one that a number of our viewers and the fans, the Sox fans who watch us, are coming from too. You are biased in the way that you don't like him and you didn't think he should have been here at all. And so the idea that he is continuing to have an impact, or in any way, and no matter how small, on this team is angering, right? But I think the other question is, should he be? Right, let's take it in the vacuum of not having an opinion on the guy in terms of whether he should have ever been the manager or anything like that, but just the idea of what is he doing now and what sort of advice is he giving. He's not a consultant; he's an advisor for this team. He is a part of the front office, and I think that he has done a very good job in interviews as recently as the last few months with describing what he thinks his role is here, and that's to provide advice to Chris Getz. He was before Pedro Grifol was fired. He was providing that advice to Pedro Grifol. I can tell you that Tony La Russa is at basically every game, that he watches basically every game, that he because as we've talked about before, Tony La Russa really likes baseball. I believe I've even used the phrase he's addicted to baseball before. And so he is doing a job in baseball that he's probably very happy to do because he likes baseball so much. It is I do not personally believe that he is having any sort of outsized impact on Chris Getz's decision making. I truly do believe that Chris Getz is the guy steering the ship here. I don't believe there's any sort of man behind the curtain that I know some White Sox fans are fearful of. That being said, Tony La Russa is here, and Tony La Russa is one of Jerry Reinsdorf's best friends. I'm sure Tony La Russa and Jerry Reinsdorf talk all the time about this team all the time. They are, you know what I mean? That's the relationship that they have. And so I think that if you were to think that Tony La Russa has impact because he's having these conversations with Jerry Reinsdorf, you're probably right. But I think that we've heard from Tony La Russa what his relationship is with the guy running the show, the general manager, as well as at least the former manager. So in that regard, I think I would point to Tony's own comments on that. But then I would also remember that the relationship between Jerry Reinsdorf and Tony La Russa is what it is.
We have wrapped on our fast channels. I just want to let you know we are CHGO. We are here with podcasts and live shows on every team every single day in Chicago. White Sox, Cubs, Hawks, Bulls, Bears, Fire, Red Star, Sky, every single team. We have shows for you every day. We also have post-game shows like you're watching now, premium written content for members at allchgo.com, 20% off events and merch. You also get a free shirt when you become a diehard. You can also get access to the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. You can head over to allchgo.com/diehard to become a member today. We're continuing our coverage here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. You can follow that at youtube.com/CHGO Sports. It's less about the dislike of Tony La Russa. I just want to make that clear. It's the fact that two outdated dinosaurs are running this team. It's the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf is also addicted to baseball, that Tony La Russa is addicted to baseball, and that I think those two have the most power in this organization. It's not even about Tony La Russa. I hope he has a fine, peaceful life. I just hope it's away from the White Sox. I don't care and have like a personal resentment against him. I dislike Jerry Reinsdorf's involvement with this team. Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn dislike his involvement with this team. I think they wanted to hire A.J. Hinch and didn't get the chance to. Like, it's less about that. It's the fact that I think that this has been Jerry's dream for, 40 years now at this point, and he finally gets to live out his dream. His best friend is next to him every single day, and they get to run a baseball team. I just think they're running that baseball team into the ground. I don't care about Tony La Russa. Tony La Russa, he's just a part, I don't want him a part of my life, but he keeps popping up. I try to stop talking about him, Vinny, for my health.
And also, I think that, I don't know if it's intentional, but in the article, they're like, yeah, Jerry kind of sees that season that Tony fully managed, the AL Central Championship in 2021, and points to that and says, look, I made the right choice. And subsequently has not maybe sabotaged his team, but has not helped his team win the games that they should be winning. They've won 20 games less each year, and he can point to the 2021 season and say, I was right. My best friend was good at baseball. We won 93 games. And since he's been gone, Kelly Clarkson, this team has been bad. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. He's like, yeah, I was right about hiring Tony La Russa. Look at Pedro Grifol. Look at the other guys who followed him. This team isn't anything without Tony La Russa, and I'm glad to have him on my side. He can have his best friend. If I had a best friend that was a Hall of Famer, but also terrible at baseball decision-making, I'll be like, hey, sit your ass on the rocking chair somewhere else, brother.
Vinny, I love you. And if I was running a White Sox an organization, let's just use me as the White Sox, I'd give you a media pass. I think you're a beautiful writer, but I'm not involving you in the day-to-day on baseball activities. I know your thoughts on exit velocity and all that stuff. Your head starts
Nor should you, Sean. Nor should you.
I mean, hey, I don't know why they would hire me, but I guess if you have enough money, you could just buy a team. All right, I'm going to give my last thoughts on this article, and then, Vinny, if there's anything else you want to add in, feel free to jump in, or anything else that we might have missed from the game. The only thing that else stuck out, obviously there was the bad trade or the questionable trade for Aaron Bummer to the Braves, and there's insight onto Alex Anthopoulos saying, hey, we're likely going to non-tender these 5 guys, but Chris Getz's love of Rock Soroka came through. That's a different thing. I don't know about that too much, but the Crochet stuff stuck out to me pretty largely. There was still a market for Crochet, even with the demands, according to Jesse and Buster. There was a package from the Dodgers that included Dalton Rushing, the Phillies that included top pitching prospect Andrew Painter, and then the Braves had some pitching too. I understand at least turning down the Phillies and Braves offer, but it seemed like, hey, Dodgers would at least give you a package with a headliner. It is a catcher, but it is at least a bat headliner. So I'm surprised that the Sox didn't pull the trigger still at the deadline. It seemed like most people around baseball were surprised that they didn't. And I'm just coming back to this. You know the most about him. You spent a first-round pick on him. He's only 25 years old. We saw this with Chris Sale. Extend him. If Jerry Reinsdorf is willing to spend the money, this man looks like an ace. He's given you 32 starts when we thought he couldn't even give you 32 relief appearances this year. He's had 142 innings pitched and over 200 strikeouts. You're saving him to ruin the Tigers' season? I think out of all the 30 teams in baseball, you value him the most.
Yeah.
The Dodgers can go spend on Blake Snell if they want to. They don't need Garrett Crochet. You have built this player up, and you, before the season, said, F it, let's start Crochet, apparently in this article to Pedro Grifol, and you see this result. I don't understand how you don't have 100% buy-in on this guy. This guy worked his butt off, and he deserves to be repaid and be your ace. And I understand you're far away from contending, but I don't know how you don't look at this player and say, this is a guy we can rebuild around. It's a guy they're going to trade, though.
I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not running a baseball team for a good reason, as we just established. But if I were, that would be the guy that you'd want to build around for sure. And, it's just an opinion. But, yeah, I would think that they would. If we're talking about the counter argument, it's that they might not be able to infuse enough talent into this organization to turn things around the way they want to without trading him. And, that kind of sucks that they've put themselves, for them and then fans, that they've put themselves in that position. But I think you're going to hear those trade rumors because of it. Now, I don't think we're ready to say that they screwed up by not trading him at the deadline yet. You don't know until the deal is made or not, right? You don't know until the deal is made or he hits free agency, whether they really did miss that window or miss their chance. I think Chris Getz thinks he can get more in the offseason. I would tend to agree with that because you don't have to prove to anybody that he's healthy. You don't have to prove to anybody that he's capable of starting an entire season. And you also don't have to deal with any of that contract, negotiation or contract extension stuff that he was talking about at the time. So I would tend to think that they maybe could do better in the winter in a Garrett Crochet trade. But I also agree with you that he seems like the perfect player that you would want to put at the top of your rotation for a very long time.
I 100% agree with both of you guys. They should extend them, but I think those deals will still be there in the offseason, especially the Dodger deal.
We will see, and we will be here for the entire offseason and tomorrow's game, along with the Sunday finale of the 2024 season. That is Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work up at allchgo.com. We appreciate him joining us live from Guaranteed Rate Field. That is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. Before we get out, I'm Sean Anderson, your CHGO White Sox host. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. Speaking of producers, today at CHGO, we had the final day of Joey Spathis, who has produced many CHGO White Sox shows, and we just want to give a heartfelt congratulations to him. He had a wonderful career and gave so much to this company over his 2.5 years, and we want to wish him best of luck in his future endeavors. He's going to be a superstar. It sucks to lose people like that, and I'll start crying about Joey. So I love you, Joey.
Horns
Congratulations. Hook 'em. There you go. Hook 'em for Arch and for Quinn Ewers. So shout out to Joey Spathis. We'll end it on a good note. For Vinny, for Herb, I'm Sean. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.